Welcome to Sportsbet.io's EPL preview. We are looking at match day 4 after the international break, and we'll focus on the big games first off. And there's none bigger than the North London Derby, which is a 2 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. It is Spurs against Arsenal. Spurs are 3.05, Arsenal are 2.32. They are the favourites. Of course, Mikel Arteta has recently just been announced signed a new 3-year deal to stay at Arsenal. They've got a couple of problems in midfield with Odegaard out with injured and Declan Rice missing suspended. The tie between these two is 3.55. I will get the first thoughts on this one of the guy who's played for Spurs and experienced the North London Derby. That'll be Paul Robinson. What's your thinking on this one, matey?
Well, listen, Spurs haven't beaten Arsenal since 2022 under Antonio Conte in this derby. 3-0 win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's a massive opportunity. You said then about the injuries that Arsenal have got. They're not going to have a better opportunity. They've almost got the whole midfield missing. Calafiori came off in the Italy match as well, so he's carrying a knock. Declan Rice suspended, Odegaard injured. Listen, not just for this game as well. I think we're talking about it next week. You listen to what the Norway doctor says. I think she said that he could be out for 3 weeks. So with Odegaard out as well, Mikel Merino got injured in training. He's done his shoulder. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what Mikel Arteta does with his starting lineup. I personally think he might drop Kai Havertz into a deeper role, play Trossard as a false 9, play Havertz in the Odegaard role. But from Tottenham's point of view, I mean, they've got Van der Ven coming back into the side. Almost a fully fit side to choose from. Or Richarlison, I think, is the only doubt, who probably wouldn't have been involved anyway from the start. So, yeah, from a Tottenham point of view, it's an incredible opportunity to beat them. But it's a North London derby, and Arsenal are a different proposition to what they have been in recent years, in the last 12, 18 months. They've got a good, strong, deep squad. Don't know how many minutes Raheem Sterling's got. Don't know if he's going to be fit enough to take any kind of part. Yes, I'm optimistic, but at the same time, still pessimistic because Arsenal are strong.
Does this kind of, Neil, ramp up the pressure on Spurs a little bit? Because if they were taking on an Arsenal side that had all their players fit and prepared and ready to go, and Arsenal have won their last 2 games at Spurs, and Spurs know full well that this is now an Arsenal side who are challenging for the title. But with those players, key players missing in midfield, and they're not missing one, as we've mentioned, they're missing 2 of them. Does this make Spurs fans go, do you know what, we can really take Arsenal, and therefore it ramps up the expectation and pressure a little bit on the home side for you?
I think it's the best chance they've got to beat Arsenal. Probably the only chance they've got because of key players missing. Paul mentioned it there. Spurs don't have a good record against Arsenal. 1 win in the last 7 games. One thing I thought Arsenal were really fortunate with last season was injuries to key players. I think the best player they have is Odegaard. He's out injured. So that is a massive blow for Arsenal. I think the second best player they have is Saliba, and he's fit, and he played every game last season. And Declan Rice has to be in that conversation as one of the best players. So 2 of the 3 best players are missing at the weekend for Arsenal. And I don't know how they'll cope because they were fortunate last year. They all seem to be fit every Premier League game. So I don't know how they can cope with those players, but it is a massive blow for them. And when Spurs see that team sheet on Sunday afternoon, they'll be thinking, cool, we've got a chance. We have got a chance. The fans will be up for it. It'll be a great atmosphere. Do you fancy Spurs? Do you really fancy Spurs and back them to beat Arsenal? Can't do it. I just don't trust Spurs. I really don't at the moment. Paul mentioned the centre half coming back in Van der Ven, fine, but do you trust them to beat Arsenal even though they've got key players missing? Still don't.
Well, I talked about the potential pressure ramping up on Spurs because they'll be thinking, do you know what, Arsenal are, as I said, missing players in midfield, and it opens up a little glimmer of hope that we can take Arsenal on here. But they also, likewise, alternatively, the pressure could be on Arsenal here, Paul, because they did drop points at home to Brighton. And if you want to compete with Man City and win the title come May, as obviously Arsenal have clear ambitions to do so, you have to be nigh on perfect across 9 months. And it's actually, I think it's going back to the start of the year, I think it's 23 games since Arsenal failed to win 2 games back-to-back. They've been that consistent. So when they've dropped points, they've followed that up with a victory, which has kept them on track. Can they afford to drop points here at Spurs? Because if Man City win again, and they could because they're at home to Brentford, there's already a gap starting to open up. So the pressure's on Arsenal to get 3 points here, would you say?
Well, what you just said, you described the way that Manchester City have set the bar, and that's where it's been. They're going to go on a run this season like they do most seasons, and 90-odd points is the benchmark. We always talk about, we do the pre-season previews, we look at the games halfway through the season. Points at this stage of the season are just as important as points in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. You get a points total at the end of the season and you're either chasing or you're in front because of what you've set up for the whole season. The points that you amass in the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season, it's all right saying, oh yeah, we're at the start of the season, we're growing into the season, we can always pick up some more points. But as we've seen, championships are won by a point. Championships are won by 1 or 2 points. Relegations are decided sometime on goal difference. So, yeah, on the course of a whole season, every single game is huge. And the benchmark that Manchester City is setting, Arsenal, Liverpool, listen, put Liverpool in that conversation. We all put them third at the start of the season. Look at the way that they've started. Nobody can afford to drop points. Listen, it's very, very rare that teams go through a perfect season. We saw Arsenal do it. We saw Leverkusen do it last season in the German league. It's very, very rare that happens. So teams are going to have their ups and downs, but it's important that you stay winning games more often than not.
The one thing that Spurs have... does anybody know the method of the first goal that's been scored between these two sides in the last 3 games straight? Does anyone have a clue what the first goal has been? Own goal. Yeah, the last 3 goals, opening goals in the last 3 games between these two, have all been scored by Spurs as well. Own goals from Spurs. It's not like Arsenal have been chipping in. Luis Romero and Højbjerg have all scored own goals in this one. Arsenal have won 9 of their last 10 away games in the Premier League. So that's a phenomenal record. Just to keep pace with Manchester City, that's what you have to do. And this has been a ding-dong battle in times gone by. We've had a 3-2, a 2-2, a 3-1, a 3-0, a 3-1. So it tends to always be over 2.5 and 3.5 goals in this one. Are you expecting a ding-dong battle in this one, Neil, with plenty of goals?
Yeah, and this is where it links nicely to the question for you. It's not going to be 0-0. We know that because there hasn't been a 0-0 for ages. Since 2009, what Arsenal player got sent off in the first half? 2009 was the last time it was 0-0 this fixture. That's a long time ago. Who got sent off after 39 minutes in the first half? Defender for Arsenal. So it's a tough one, this. To be fair, it's not an easy question. You know, it's one of those where you'd have to be an absolute geek to know the answer, maybe. Arsenal
we've got no chance there.
Well, okay. That was the difficult version of the question. The answer was Ibui, but the next, you might have remembered. That's all. It might have been an incident, but anyway, who cares? The next part of the question is: how many games since has there been between these teams since a 0-0 draw? How many games since has it been since a 0-0 draw between Spurs and Arsenal?
So that was 2009.
Yeah.
So that's 15 years ago. So I would argue probably 38 games. That seems a bit high, doesn't it? Actually, I've said that and I've just realised that.
I like your method. You're close. You are close.
Oh,
got a chance to get closer.
37.
4 wins. 4 wins.
I knew he'd do that. I knew he'd do it.
You're just too keen, Gav. You go straight in every time. It's too easy.
There's been 1-0 in 59 games between them, and the last time was 34 games ago.
Wasn't that far?
It's only 0-0. There'll be goals in this game. There'll be goals.
So let's go for a score prediction in this one. Spurs against Arsenal, the tie of Matchday 4 of the Premier League, 2 p.m. on Sunday. We'll go with the former Spurs goalkeeper. What's your abiding memory of playing this derby, by the way, Paul? What's your abiding memory of facing Arsenal as a Spurs player?
Well, we were always an inferior team. We were a team that was grown under Martin Jol, and Arsenal were coming from the back of like the Invincibles, and they were still a top team. So we were, listen, if we got anything in those games, it was always going to be a bonus. We played the likes of Henry, Adebayor, Perez, that type of team, and we always struggled. So it's always a tough derby, And I remember, listen, the strong dislike is still there now for me because of, the abuse that you get when you go to the away grounds and everything, and it's different as a goalkeeper. A quick story for you. My mum always used to say, I went for a Sunday lunch with my mum's about 2 or 3 years ago, and Arsenal were on telly, and I went, I hope they get smashed today. And she went, it was always really nice when we went there that we got looked after, because I used to put them in the other end, like the posh seats, to keep them out of the way of the trouble. All the people are really nice. I said, you want to hear what they say about you behind the goal? That's it.
Brilliant. Let's have your score prediction then for Spurs against Arsenal. You go first, Paul.
I got a little in for you with a bet builder, because you're not going to get much value in either of the team. Penalty, one in each of them last season. There was a penalty in each game. Quite often there's a penalty in this game. Jared Gillett is the referee. On average, he gives 1 in 3. He's refereed 2 games this season, hasn't given a penalty yet. This is his 3rd. So a penalty in this game with Jared Gillett, the referee, there's every chance. But for me, yeah, I'm all over the goals. Both teams to score has landed 5 out of the last 6 times in this game. So both teams to score in a Spurs 3-1 win.
Spurs 3-1 Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Hang on a minute. I've got to check the price on that one then, because this could be the first big one of the preview. Correct score 3-1 Spurs. Get in there at a price of 18. So good luck with that. Prices are correct at the time of recording.
Penalty in there. There you go. That'll give you even more odds. That's bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil, are we going to get a complete reverse decision from you in this one? Are you going for a Spurs win or an Arsenal win?
Quite. You convinced me about the penalty. Quite liked all that. I think a centre half will score, whether it's Romero, maybe Gabriel for Arsenal. But yeah, I don't see Arsenal winning with those key players missing. I don't see Spurs winning either. So I'm sitting on the fence for a score draw. Won't be 0-0. We've gone through that one. 1-1.
1-1, as it was in 2016 when we had an own goal and a penalty in 2016. So this genuinely always is either got a penalty or an own goal. Something else to look out for as well. If Bentancur does play for Spurs in this one, he's played twice so far this season and picked up a yellow card in both. So it could be 3 out of 3 if Bentancur plays for the home side. Look at him to pick up a yellow card. That is Spurs against Arsenal, 2 p.m. on Sunday. We'll go to the first game of the weekend, which is Southampton against Manchester United. I'll get the prices up on this one. Southampton, they are, as the outsiders, as you can imagine, 4.5. Man United are 1.74. 4 for the tie. Southampton played 3, lost 3. Just the 1 goal. Man United coming into this one off the back of 2 defeats. The last one was against Liverpool, which means I'll go towards Neil in that one, or head towards Neil, because of course he'd be delighted with that performance and that result for Liverpool. What's your thinking on Southampton against Man United, my friend?
Is it a bit harsh to call it a relegation battle? It's I'm only kidding, United fans. Don't worry, you're not that bad, but you haven't been great. 3-0. It could have been more, could have been worse for United. Liverpool absolutely dominated. I'd say embarrassed because there was Olays on the pitch and it was just so enjoyable to watch. And it's not always the case, I expect it to be closer than that. But Liverpool too good for United. And it's a reminder to United just how far they are off the top sides. Nowhere near it. Absolutely nowhere near it. What's Ten Hag spent? £600 million. Nowhere near a title race. I think for United, it's about trying to get back into the Champions League for them next season. So 4th, 5th place, whatever that is. I'm expecting them to go and beat Southampton. I know it's the early kickoff. Casemiro had a lot of stick, whether he'll start. Ugarte, I think, will start. Uruguay's last game was Saturday, so they've not had a game sort of Tuesday or Wednesday, so I think he will start. As bad as things have been for United, this would be a big, big surprise if they were to lose at Southampton. One thing I'd say for Southampton, though, they will get chances against United. They had 18 shots against Brentford. So it's not like Southampton are struggling to create chances. They're still having chances. They did something similar against Newcastle. They'd have to take those chances, but I'm on United to win this.
Here's a stat for you then. Manchester United have come from behind to beat Southampton in 10 different Premier League games. Only Liverpool have more comeback victories against a single opponent. That's Liverpool against Newcastle with 11. So with this record of Man United having, 10 comeback wins against Southampton, is there scope for Southampton to score the first goal in this one? Do you fancy an upset in the South Coast? 4.5 attempted for you, Southampton, Paul?
No, won't be anywhere near him. It stinks for me of a Vincent Kompany Burnley-esque side. Russell Martin, I like him as a manager, I like him as a person, the way he comes across in his press conferences. And I think there's a stigma now around managers of sticking with the way you play and getting a reputation for being a manager of playing a certain style of football with a certain setup and a certain way. And I think that could be their downfall in the Premier League. You look at what happened to Burnley. Vincent Kompany pretty much stuck with what he did the whole season. There was a little bit more pragmatism came in as the season went on. But for me, Southampton, they're way too open, concede far too many goals. I mean, it was only 1-0 against Newcastle, 1-0 against Forest. But then you look at the Cup, they conceded 3 against Cardiff and then 3 away at Brentford. Aaron Ramsdale coming in has been a great signing for them. But I think if they continue to play the way that they play, they're going to give teams a lot of chances. And when you come up against teams of quality in the Premier League, they're going to take those chances. I don't have any worry about them going forward. They've got the players, the new players there will take time to settle in. But you look what United have got in the final third, and Southampton do take risks. They do take chances. And you can't do that in the Premier League. Reminds me of Burnley. Reminds me of a Norwich game I did a few years ago when Norwich were in the Premier League. They were insistent on playing out from the back. They were 4-0 down after 19 minutes at Manchester City, and they kept doing the same. And you just you need a plan B. You need to do something else. And for me, what I've seen of this Southampton team at the moment, they're going to leak a lot of goals this year.
Leak a lot of goals is what they did against Manchester United back in 2021. Do you remember the scoreline, Old Trafford? 9, yeah, 9-0. To be fair, last time Southampton played Man United was at Old Trafford. It was 0-0, so they went from a 9-0 to a 0-0. So fair play Southampton on that one. We're not expecting a 0-0 in this one, so we'll go to Neil for score prediction in this one. Man United are unbeaten in their last 12 Premier League games away at Southampton, 1-7, drawn 5. So the draw could be a play, but Neil, your score prediction of Saints against Manchester United, please.
I'm going for a quick question. Let's see how quick we can be with this one. United have lost 7 of the last 14 away Premier League games. That's awful for them. Southampton last beat United back in 2003. Ronaldo came off the bench for United that day. Wasn't enough to get an equaliser. Who got the winner for Southampton? 2003 was the last time Southampton beat United at home.
There's a name that's popped into my head, and if this is correct, I doubt it is, but if it's correct, then I'm just done. That's it. Preview's over. Marian Pahars?
No. He played for, I think he started at Blackburn, this lad. Went to Southampton, scored a load of goals. Oof, close. James Beattie.
Was it Beattie?
James Beattie. Anyway, there you go. So my score prediction is the same scorer who got the winner last season. He hasn't scored in 8 Manchester United games. Bruno Fernandes to score and Manchester United to win 2-1.
2-1. So you are going both teams score for Southampton. Their next game, Southampton, by the way, at home after this is Ipswich, and that is a proper crunch game. And then they're away at Bournemouth. So 2-1 for Neil in this one to Man United. And you, Paul?
I think they're a bit more comfortable. I think I'm going to give them a rare clean sheet as well. I'm going to go Man United 3-0.
3-0 for Manchester United. I will tell you that Southampton at home in the Premier League have actually failed. If you take into account the last time they were in the Premier League, Southampton have failed to score in 4 of those 5 games, and yet when they did score, it was in that dramatic 4-4 draw against Liverpool, which is ridiculous. So both of you have gone for Manchester United to win this one. That's your 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. And we'll go to 3 p.m. on Saturday for Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. Liverpool are 1.23, Nottingham Forest at 12.5, 6.6 for the tie. A little bit of history could be set here because Arne Slot has won every single game for Liverpool with keeping a clean sheet, 3 out of 3. No manager in the competition's history, Premier League is 30-odd years old now, no manager in the competition's history has kept a clean sheet in each of their first 4 matches in charge. If that occurs in this one, a little bit of history set. I'll go to you first, Paul, on this one. I know Neil's got close connections to Liverpool. What's your thinking on Liverpool against Forest?
Like Liverpool, like what I see. From a neutral point of view, there's all this talk about, what's he done different. He's tweaked a few things. They're a little bit more comfortable in possession. They're still as attacking and direct as they were. And I just think they look a little bit more comfortable on the ball. They're more patient, I think. There's no huge changes. The squad's the same, personnel are the same. And I just think what he's done, he's been very, very clever. He's not come in and tried to reinvent the wheel. He's come into a very good football club that's been run extremely well under the stewardship of Jurgen Klopp in recent seasons. He saw where they finished off last season. He's tweaked things a little bit. But I think with the teams that he's picked, the results that they've got, they've looked very comfortable. All right, listen, apart from Man United, you can argue Ipswich, Brentford. Brentford at home is a game you'd expect them to win, although Brentford do create chances at Anfield. Ipswich away, possibly a tough start. 3 clean sheets, 3 very good performances. From a Liverpool fan's point of view, I'm sure Mel's will tell us, I'd be sat there going, yeah, was worried about this hole that Jurgen Klopp was going to leave, but quite like this new guy in a completely different way to the way that another Dutchman's gone into Old Trafford. This one's gone in there. He looks assertive. He looks confident. I like what he says in press conferences. And I think he's got the respect to the players and fans in a very, very short space of time.
Yeah, I love the fact that he's gone in and he referenced Jurgen Klopp when they won away at Man United in terms of, well, Jurgen Klopp got it right. I'm just kind of doing the same thing with just a couple of tweaks. And I really like that. That's quite good management to not say this is all me and I'm making these rafter changes. I like that. Liverpool are unbeaten in their last 25 home league games against Nottingham Forest. Does Neil Mellor know the last time that Forest won away at Anfield?
Yes, 1969. Shankly was manager. Ron Yeats, who sadly passed away, rest in peace, was the captain that day. That was the last time. And the question to you would be, who finished higher in the league that season, Liverpool or Forest?
It was 50-50. Knowing my luck, I'll get this wrong, so I will go Forest.
Paul?
Well, why did you go first? I got Liverpool.
Liverpool finished second that year. When Forest had that sort of run in the European Cup, I don't know what year that was. Forest finished 18th. They were the only team to beat Liverpool at Anfield that season. 69, long time ago. Liverpool have been great. What I would say is, I mean, a lot of people are saying this and that's different about last season with Klopp. Klopp's one of Liverpool's greatest ever managers. Mention Shankly there again. He's one of the greats for Liverpool. So it's been a really good start for Arne Slot. I think what I would say is Liverpool look a little bit less vulnerable defensively because Andy Robertson doesn't get forward as much down the left-hand side. So it's almost like a back three. And the recovery from the midfield has been there to stop the counter-attacks. And that was a big threat we thought we'd see from United, which we didn't. So Liverpool have looked more secure defensively. Forest have scored in every game so far this season. I'm sure they'll have one or two chances. They would have to take them if they are to get anything from the game. Liverpool will create plenty. So, I'm really confident the way Liverpool have been playing that Liverpool can get the job done. And a goal scorer, get this lad's name on your list. Diogo Jota hasn't scored at Anfield for 7 months. February was the last time he scored. He's fit. He's healthy. He scores goals. He gets chances in this Liverpool team. I fancy him to score at Anfield this weekend against Forest.
Diogo Jota has 3 goals in 2 games at home to Forest. The last 2 games Forest have played at Anfield, they've conceded 3 in both. Not only has Diogo Jota scored 3 in those 2, he scored the first goal in both, and Salah scored the last goal in both. So Salah's got 2 in 2 against Forest as well. Just another interesting fact that something you might want to take into account. In the last 5 head-to-head meetings between these two sides, the second half has been the highest scoring half in 4 of those 5, with those 4 games all being 0-0 at half-time. So there has been very tight first halves between these two sides, and then the second half has been goal crazy. Right. Paul, your score predictions for Liverpool against Forest, please.
Another comfortable home victory for Liverpool. Can't see anything else. Do we give them a nil? Do we give them some history? Yeah, I think we do. Look at what Forest have got going forward. They're going to have to sit in a low block and possibly play a 5 at the back. 3-0, Liverpool. Going to break the trend of the 2-0s, continue another 3-0 like they did last week at Man U. 3-0.
If Forest do win this one, if they do, they're 12.5, they're a massive prize. I would argue I probably want bigger than 12.5 for Forest to win at Liverpool. It will be their 4th consecutive victory away from home in the Premier League. That's not something they've done since probably mid-90s in the Clough era. Right, Neil, Liverpool against Forest, your score prediction, please.
Liverpool will concede a goal eventually. Will it be this week? I'm not sure. I think with AC Milan on Tuesday night, we'll see players coming off like Salah, Jota, Diaz, and he'll rotate players last 20-30 minutes like he has been doing. So yeah, not quite as emphatic as people might think. I'm going to go for 2-0 for Liverpool.
Which has been the scoreline of Arne Slot's games in charge at home for Liverpool in this one so far. 1.23 for Liverpool, Forest at 12.5, 6.6 for the tie. At the time of recording, the prices were correct. That is our quick look, well, fairly quick look, at the 3 biggest games we picked out for Matchday 4 of this Premier League weekend. That is it for part 1. In part 2, we'll be looking at the rest of the games and putting up some score predictions. And as ever, always please do gamble responsibly.